Hello and welcome to our brand new webinar series, What's New at AmericanAncestors.org. My name is Ginevra Morse, Director of Education and Online Programs here at American Ancestors and New England Historic Genealogical Society. I will be moderating today's event. We are a nonprofit organization supported by our members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history and are pleased to offer such programming for our members and friends around the world. Our presenter today is Database Coordinator Molly Rogers. Molly works on our database collections, maintaining the accuracy of current databases, and managing teams of volunteers to transcribe and add new collections to our website. Originally from York, Pennsylvania, Molly studied English and French at Colby College in Maine and has a master's degree in library and information science from Simmons College. So as I mentioned, this is the first session in our brand new webinar series. Every 3 months, we'll be providing a new installment that reviews the most recent additions and changes to our award-winning website, AmericanAncestors.org. After a brief introduction to this new series, Molly will highlight our newest databases and additions to our digital collections. Then we'll discuss a few projects that are in progress and wrap up with questions from our listeners. At any point during the presentation, feel free to type your question in the panel to the right of your screen. We'll address those after the presentation. There is no handout for this session today, but we are recording this event, and starting tomorrow, you can easily go back and review any of the content from the presentation on our website. So if during today's first listen you missed something, or you want to go back, or you didn't quite capture a full URL or something like that, you can always go back and review the recording. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to now turn things over to Molly.
Hello, welcome to our new webinar series, What's New at AmericanAncestors.org. We will produce this webinar about 4 times a year to highlight new resources, help you understand how to use them, and generally help you make the most out of your membership. Today's lecture is our very first in the series, as Ginevra mentioned. What's new on our website can be a very broad topic. This series will focus on resources for research that are available online, particularly our databases and digital collections, which can be respectively found in the search and library menus on our homepage. I'll briefly introduce you to our databases and digital collections so that you understand what it is I'm talking about before I dive in to what is new. To search our databases, you'll want to start in the search menu. There are a few different ways to start searching. We won't go into detail on all of them today, but we will discuss this menu later in the presentation. We currently have 462 databases available on AmericanAncestors.org. Many of them contain vital records such as births, marriages, and deaths. Many more are censuses. Probate records and published genealogies are other important sources of information. In these databases, you can find 1.4 billion names to search. These records are spread across many countries and all of the states. We certainly specialize in New England resources, but if your ancestors hail from a different area, you should definitely perform a search to see what resources we might have. Our digital collections contain digitized books and manuscripts from our library collection. We'll go into much more detail later on in this lecture, but you can find them here under our library menu. Over 7,500 pages of genealogies, including letters, diaries, case files, and more, are available to discover. This new series is not how to search AmericanAncestors.org. I want to give you enough information to have context and to follow what I'm discussing, but we have other resources that go into much more detail regarding how to search. If you would like to learn more about how to search our site, please consult the Learn menu. You will find a subject guide on usingamericanancestors.org that explains in great detail how to navigate our website, search our databases, and leverage other tools to advance your family history research. Also under the Learn menu, and within our library of archived webinars, you will find a recorded webinar called Searching Databases on AmericanAncestors.org. The webinars are arranged chronologically, so you will need to scroll down to find this one. This video will contain even more search tips and demonstrations on how best to use our collections. So we'll begin today by discussing new resources on our site within the databases, particularly focusing on additions and updates that have happened in the past 3 months. This presentation summarizes and expands upon information that is available in our blog, Database News. If you would like email updates regarding additions to our databases, be sure to subscribe. You can see up in the right corner, there is a bar where you can input your email address. So as soon as something new is added to our website, this is where we announce it. In a minute, I'll delve into specifics regarding 7 of our databases that we've updated in the past 3 months. But first, I wanted to show you how to get there. There are a few different ways to search, as I mentioned. Again, you can always view our webinar on that subject. Here, I'll just highlight one of the ways to start your search. We're going to choose Browse Databases A to Z in that search menu. This will take you to our A to Z database list, which lists each of our 462 databases. You can search this list over here in the search bar by a variety of different keywords. You might try searching by a state, like Vermont, to see everything that we have in that category. You could also try searching for a subject, like Mayflower. If you click on one of these database titles, you will go to a database search page that is specifically tailored to fit that database. This can be really helpful as index fields vary throughout all of our databases. We always aspire to index 7 different fields: first name, last name, parents' names, spouse's name, date, location, and record type. However, this might not always happen for a variety of reasons, including the possibility that not all of the information may be provided in that original record. These database-specific search pages only include the fields possible to search in a given database. Here's an example. I'm going to click here on the American genealogist. Now we're on the search page specifically generated for the American genealogist. There are no parents or spouse names associated with these records, so these search fields are not available. You can search by first name or last name, and you can use the keyword field to search by article title. Next, I'll go through the list of databases we've updated in the past 3 months. If you would like to search any of the databases I'll talk about in particular, these database-specific search pages are a great place to start. Here, we will talk about our collaboration with the Archdiocese of Boston. We are digitizing their sacramental records from 1789 to 1920. Our original agreement covered up to 1900. In August, we announced that we will continue our partnership digitizing the records that span 1901 to 1920. We're really thrilled to announce this valuable addition. This news was covered in a few different news outlets, including the Boston Globe. The records in this database are most often baptisms, marriages, and confirmations. Occasionally, other records like deaths or first communions may be included. This project is a work in progress. We are still scanning, indexing, and adding new content to our site almost every week. If you would like to know if a particular parish has been completed, do a search on our blog, Database News, that I mentioned earlier, to see if the parish is part of this collection. We're really excited to be approaching 500 complete volumes in this collection. Here's the database search page for our Archdiocese of Boston collection. You can search on all possible fields in this database, including witnesses to baptisms and marriages. To search a witness name, type it into the family member fields and don't choose a specific role here in the drop-down menu. This can be particularly helpful when your ancestor has a very common name. Witnesses can help pin down and triangulate if this is exactly your John Brown, for example. If you scroll down on the database search page, you can find more information to help you understand the source. We're always hoping that we can give researchers enough context to connect this image that they're looking at online with the original source that it came from. So search tips are going to tell you exactly which fields are available to search in a given database, and the sample images give you an idea of what you might find. So it's the description where we really try to contextualize where this source came from. What are you looking at? Is it a manuscript from our library? Is it a sacramental register from the Archdiocese of Boston? We want to help give you those answers. Here, I've done a sample search in this database just to show you how the database search page connects you to the actual records. We're looking for the marriage of a Dennis Kelly in Salem in 1870. If you click on that first result, you can now see Dennis and Rosanna's record at the top of this page. Our collaboration with the Archdiocese of Boston is twofold. The searchable database we just discussed is only available to paying NEHGS members. We're also creating a free database that just contains the images. You can flip through the pages on our website almost like you're looking at the actual book. This database is easier for us to produce behind the scenes. We only have to scan the images and then make them available online. We don't have to spend a long time really thoroughly indexing the records. So we currently have more parishes available in this collection than in the searchable database. So if the parish that you're interested in is not yet part of the searchable database, be sure to check the browsable database to see if it is here. In the past 3 months, we've added 19 new parishes to this growing collection. Almost all of the pre-1900 records are currently available. Since this database is image only, browsing it works a little differently than searching one of our fully searchable databases. We've created a video to help you understand how to navigate this database, which is available through YouTube or on our website, catholicrecords.americanancestors.org. Our next current major undertaking is a full reindex of the New England Historical and Genealogical Register. This is our scholarly journal, which we have been publishing since 1847. We currently have 2 databases associated with the register. Our database, New England Historical and Genealogical Register, that's the title, is the equivalent of the index in the back of a book. You can search on names and easily find known citations, but record type, date, and location information is not included. This can be a helpful database to consult, but obviously some important information is not yet captured. Some years ago, we partnered with Ancestry to capture some vital record style information in the journal, which resulted in our other database, Vital Records from the NEHGS Register. This database is currently incomplete. Only some of the records are fully indexed. We've taken on the task of doing a full, high-quality index of this database to finally expose to search the full potential of the valuable information contained within the journal. This webinar officially focuses on the past 3 months. Prior to July, we re-released volumes 1 through 3 of Vital Records from the NEHGS Register. In July, we announced the new versions of volumes 4 through 6, and more are going to be coming soon. As we've done a better index on this journal, there have been as many as 8 times more records available in the new volumes than the old volumes. There are 175 years worth of issues to reindex in this database. At our current pace, we're estimating that this project will span the next 20 years. If you would like to volunteer to help with this project, we'd love to have your help. I'll cover volunteer opportunities in more detail towards the end of this session. Here is the database-specific search page for vital records from the NEHGS Register. You can see that all fields are searchable, with the caveat that volumes 1 through 6 are currently much better indexed than the rest of the journal. If you have a known citation, maybe you're looking for something that appears in volume 1 on page 10, you can easily navigate there using the volume and page fields. I know it may be confusing that we have the two different databases that are associated with this one single source, and I wanted to take a minute to really illustrate for you how valuable our reindexing project is. So here I did a search in our older database, New England Historical and Genealogical Register, for someone named Samuel Smith. And you can see up here I've gotten more than 400 results. So it's going to be pretty hard to look through this list to find exactly the Samuel Smith that you're looking for. You can see that we have the article titles associated with each of the records, so that can give you some clue, but still that's not the perfect way to find exactly the Samuel Smith you know that you are looking for. So here I've done another search in vital records from the NEHGS Register in volume 4, which is one of the ones that we have re-released. And so here I was looking for the Samuel Smith who was born in Dedham in 1641. So you can see now that all of that information is actually indexed, I can pin down this exact child and maybe even the death of one of his brothers too. So we're really excited that even though this project is going to span so many years going forward, I think that we're really improving the quality of data to help you with your research. Other ongoing projects include our New England-focused study projects. Helen Ullman edits Western Massachusetts Families in 1790, which contains sketches of heads of families who were enumerated in the 1790 census, living in historic Berkshire and Hampshire counties, which also include portions of modern Franklin and Hampden counties. In the past 3 months, we've added 4 sketches highlighting men who lived in Belchertown, Coleraine, New Marlborough, and Pittsfield. You can see that this database is not indexed in as much detail as the others we've seen so far. Only the first and last names are searchable. You can browse the list of available sketches here in the volume drop-down menu. This project is composed of NEHGS member-submitted sketches, as well as sketches written by other interested parties. If you have an ancestor who lived in this area during the 1790s, you may want to be in contact with Helen Ullman to consider submitting your research for a future sketch. To learn more about the process, see our submission guidelines page. New England Families is another of our New England study projects. Alicia Crane Williams highlights heads of families mentioned in Torrey's New England Marriages to 1700. Torrey's New England Marriages is an important early genealogical work listing couples who married here prior to 1700, conglomerating a variety of different resources. Alicia Crane Williams has used this as a basis for identifying sketch subjects. She then researches the lives of these couples in much greater detail. 2 sketches were added in the past 3 months. Both of these men lived in Watertown. Alicia has recently been releasing sketches in clusters that focus on related individuals. So Richard Norcross married William Shattuck's widow, Susanna. Here you can see this database is very well indexed. You can search on any field. Once you've performed a search in this database and our other study projects like Western Mass Families, you do have the opportunity to download the entire sketch as a PDF, which makes printing and saving the article to your computer easier. Click the Download PDF link within the Events column on any record. Lowell, Mass. High School Students, 1837 to 1878, is our newest database added over the past 3 months. Keith Arbor, the author of Lowell High School Broadsides, provided the initial index of names used to create this database. Lowell High School was the nation's first integrated and coeducational high school. Broadsides were published listing the students and other information including class rank and attendance, providing valuable information regarding children of workers and immigrants who settled in Lowell. Students and teachers listed in this database are indexed on first name, last name, and year. Ireland, the Annals of Bear, is a database in progress. Volume 1 has been fully indexed for some time. We just released the fully indexed version of Volume 2. This database presents the work of Robard O'Dwyer, who has studied the families of the Beara Peninsula in West Cork, using Catholic and Church of Ireland parish records, civil records, and interviews with residents. Volume 2 focuses on Bear Island and Aries. This database is searchable by first and last name, years, and location. Volume 3 is still image only. The index is currently in progress. Now we'll transition into discussing updates to our digital collections in the past 3 months. You may be wondering about the differences between digital collections and our databases. Our databases are record-based, focused around data such as names, dates, and places. Vital records and census records are common types of information found within our databases. They have wide-ranging original sources from our library collections to partnerships with other organizations like the Archdiocese of Boston, as we discussed. Digital collections, in contrast, are solidly rooted in our library collections. You will only find content from our library there. You might find genealogies, local histories, family Bible records, and manuscripts relating to conflicts such as the Revolutionary or Civil Wars. Items are presented page by page, many resources are browsable, and some may be full-text searchable. There is some overlap between the types of items that you might find in digital collections and our databases, so if you have any questions about where to find something, you can always ask us. As I previously mentioned, to get to digital collections, click on Digital Book and Manuscript Collections in our library menu. You will find yourself here on the Digital Collections homepage. Behind the scenes, information in digital collections comes from 3 different sources: our Special Collections and Manuscript Department, our Research Library, and the Wyner Family Jewish Heritage Center. I'll go through updates to digital collections from each of these 3 sources over the past 3 months. Some of this material is available to guest members, and some is only available to contributing members. We'll start with updates to the manuscripts that are available for free to guest members. Here you can see one of the new manuscripts focuses on Samuel Armstrong, who described his Revolutionary War service between 1777 and 1778, including the winter at Valley Forge. John Thomas was a surgeon who served in the French and Indian War and kept a diary in the 1740s. Perhaps one of your ancestors also served in an early American war. I want to show you how to access these manuscripts if you are interested in first-person accounts such as these. Start on the Digital Collections homepage and click Browse NEHGS Digital Collections. This will lead you to an important page. We will keep coming back to this page and click off into various directions. It is split into 2 different ways to search. Browse by genre is going to allow you to search within a specific type of source. So you might be looking within all genealogies, all city directories, all diaries, that sort of category. NEHGS collections are thematic groupings of materials. For example, within the Revolutionary War manuscripts collection, you might find letters, diaries, and other materials. Depending on your research interests, it might make more sense for you to search within genre or topic. You can find the diaries that we mentioned through either method. As I said, we're going to keep coming back to this page to do different searches. Here, I've aggregated screenshots of 4 of the different collections that we are going to talk about today. Be sure to scroll down on this page to fully browse the set of options that are available for search. So to keep talking about these diaries, we're going to scroll down on that page, and you can either choose diaries in the Browse by Genre list, or the French and Indian Wars manuscripts collection if you're interested in John Thomas, or the Revolutionary War manuscripts if you're more interested in Samuel Armstrong. If you choose the collection-based search, you will come to a landing page that explains the resources available in this collection in more detail. Click Browse this collection to proceed on to the things available inside. Here you can see that I've searched within the French and Indian Wars manuscripts collection for the keyword John Thomas. And here, if I clicked on this link, I could access the contents of his diary. In the past 3 months, the Special Collections Department has also added both typescript and handwritten unpublished genealogies. Winifred Lovering Holman was a renowned genealogist who was particularly prolific in the 1930s through the 1950s. Some of her work on the Bentley, Brown, Burgess, and Domett families has recently been added. To find these manuscripts, we're going to go back to that really important page and choose Browse by Genre and Genealogies. I then used, here you can see genealogies, I then used a keyword, Domett, and I was able to find this manuscript pertaining to this family. Special Collections has also added genealogies by Charles N. Sinnott. His work focuses on families who lived in coastal and mid-made towns such as Litchfield, Harpswell, Freeport, and Bowdoin. Here, I made my search slightly more complex. Again, I'm searching within the genre genealogies, but this time I'm using advanced search to look for Sinnott in the author field. Here you can see author is called creator, which keeps it a little more broad. I hit search and was able to find a variety of manuscripts pertaining to Maine families. Special Collections has also added genealogies pertaining to 4 other families: Bliss, Brainerd, Melville, and Palms. The Melville family happens to be the family of the famous author Herman. I wanted to show you what happens if you actually click on one of these manuscripts. The image viewer allows you to zoom in, skip to the next page within the document, and download the image among other options. Finally, Special Collections added 56 new family registers and Bible records to digital collections in the past 3 months. These records can be very personal and occasionally quite beautiful. They're a meaningful glimpse into the life of an ancestor. While the material that we just focused on from Special Collections is all unpublished, our research library adds published works to digital collections, which are available to paid NEHGS members. Here is a selection of interesting published volumes that have been added to our collection in the past 3 months. These books belong to the family history book category that, again, you can find on that page that splits searching into either collection or genre. To learn more about any of these titles, you can search them as a keyword or a title within that family history book category. The Research Library also added books to the local history books collection. The handbook for the Greenwood Cemetery has beautiful engraved illustrations such as this fountain right here. The sketch of Catholicity in Lawrence might be really helpful to researchers who are also using the Archdiocese of Boston collections in our databases. If your ancestors attended church in Lawrence or the surrounding area, this book will surely be helpful in your research. Finally, the Jewish Heritage Center also contributes to digital collections. In the past 3 months, they've added 829 folders with 7,285 pages from the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society in Boston. HIAS Boston was a Jewish organization that worked to help immigrants find their way in this country and also served as a center for social services and religious needs. Their case files include valuable information about the lives of immigrants in the 20th century. This Polish passport comes from one of the recently added case files and includes information in Polish, French, and English. To access the JHC collections, we're back on the original digital collections homepage. And here, instead of jumping into the NEHGS digital collections, we're going to choose Browse JHC digital collections instead. You will find yourself on this page, which highlights many of the most popular collections available to search. Before we proceed further, you want to be sure that you can access this material. If you scroll down to the useful links, you will find information on how to access the Jewish Heritage Center Digital Archive. NEHGS members have full access to this information. If you click on this link and you are not a member of NEHGS, this page that you can see the picture of the people with the crowns and the costumes will provide more information on how to create a free account. So on this page, we're going to click on the HIAS box, since that is where the bulk of their records added in the past 3 months belong to. And we'll get taken to this page, which may look familiar, similar to the one we saw for the French and Indian War manuscript collection. Here you can learn more about HIAS as an organization and the records that can be found within this collection. Click Browse to proceed through to search in the same manner that we have previously discussed. Here you can see a variety of case files that you could research. You can make this search more specific up here in the search bar, or using advanced search, you might want to try looking for a specific last name or a location. We began this presentation with our blog Database News, which summarizes the work of the database team. The Digital Collections team presents their work monthly in our email newsletter, The Weekly Genealogist. On the last Wednesday of each month, keep your eyes out for their report on new additions. Hopefully, we've given you the tips you need to find these resources. You can subscribe to the Weekly Genealogist on our website. As we conclude, we thought we'd give a sneak peek regarding the work of the database team and our volunteers behind the scenes. If you browse database news over the past 3 months, you can see it's very heavy on updates to the Catholic Records Project. We're working on many other projects, but not all are released in the same incremental manner. This should give you a look into some of the new databases that will be coming soon. If you'd like to help make this information available even sooner, we're always looking for more volunteers. 2020 will be NEHGS' 175th anniversary. To celebrate this occasion, we're creating a database containing the earliest applications to join the Society. Formats vary for these applications. They might be a handwritten letter or a form that somewhat standardizes the family information provided. Applications from presidents, including John Quincy Adams and Millard Fillmore, are contained within this collection. Our volunteer program supports both remote and in-person volunteers. For this project, We need indexers who are interested in receiving a batch of images and inputting relevant information into a spreadsheet. For example, on this page, you might enter Horace Leslie Wheeler. You can find his birth information on the 30th of October in 1858. Then you're going to put in his father's name. I think this one, if you look closely, doesn't provide his mother's name on this first page. But then next, you'll go through this list and put in information for his grandfather's birth, his grandmother's birth, their marriage, etc. To participate in indexing this project, you will need to have patience for reading handwriting and a willingness to ask questions when you encounter something strange, because when you're indexing for us, you always will encounter something that breaks all the rules we have laid out. So we're also collaborating with the JHC to add the Jewish Heritage Center to add some of the HIAS records to our database collection. I mentioned there's sometimes overlap between what belongs in databases versus digital collections. In this case, these ship arrivals and immigrant detentions particularly lend themselves to the name, date, location-based format of our databases. Here, these materials vary. Some of them are handwritten and some of them are typed. They might contain the immigrant's name, their destination, the name of a relative or friend who is already in the United States, and other information. Since HIAS was run by people of the Jewish faith, Jewish and Eastern European names have been recorded by people who had a much better chance of spelling something correctly than the average census taker, which makes these records even more valuable. Again, in this database, we'll be recording dates and names and putting this information into a spreadsheet. Other information may vary depending on the page, but it could include age or the ship on which they arrived. In these examples, you can see that these immigrants arrived on the ship the Kimrick, and these came on the Manitou. So, to volunteer for us, you can always contact my colleague, Rachel Adams, our Database Services Volunteer Coordinator. We're particularly looking for help with our membership applications, the HIAS records, or the Register, which is the 20-year project I mentioned at the beginning. Rachel can introduce you to the project and send you some images so that you can see if this really is something that you'd want to try. We accept all levels of volunteer commitment from just a few hours a month to many, many hours a month. So to conclude, I hope that this has been a helpful overview of the new resources available for research on AmericanAncestors.org. You can always watch Database News and the Weekly Genealogist for updates on what is new in our databases and digital collections. Vita Brevis is our organization-wide blog containing genealogical tips and anecdotes. It's always a great source for genealogical inspiration and often highlights things that are new as well. Please email us at webmaster@nehgs.org if you have any questions. I'm the one who answers those emails, and I'm always happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Molly, for that overview of some recent updates and additions to our website collections. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type it into the questions panel, and we'll get to as many as we can. So a few questions, Molly, about the Catholic Records Project that we talked about first. So we have a question, are the church records indexed by the original name of the church or parish? This person says, I'm having difficulty finding records for a church that no longer exists under its original name. So how might that appear within our database, or what recommendations might you have?
That's an excellent question, because the churches often did either split off from each other or combine. You really, if you're interested in records in this era, you do want to try and trace the history of that church so you do know where to look. We name things as they are currently called in the Archdiocese archives. So this does not always take into account what their historical name might be. I realize that can perhaps be confusing, but in database news, our blog, when I announce each parish, if there are other names or ways that the parish could exist, I try and have a brief sentence or two explaining that history. For example, I know that, now I might get this wrong. There's so many. I'm thinking of like a name in a parish. I think that St. Stephen in Boston in the North End, that one might have started out as maybe St. John. So this is a really common thing. So looking at database news is one way to do that. There's also a book that's available on archive.org that is by James S. Sullivan, and I reference it often in database news. It's where I often go to get information on the parish history. And so it was written on the centennial of the Archdiocese, and it contains a lot of helpful information. You know, if you're looking in St. Jean-Baptiste in Lowell, you can see, did it start off as St. Joseph? It'll give you that information.
Great, thank you. And Anthony asks, so again, kind of regarding the Catholic records, are there any plans to eventually expand beyond the Archdiocese of Boston, for example, to Worcester or to other archdioceses within New England?
We at NEHGS would love to work with other dioceses and archdioceses in New England and further afield. I think part of that is getting connected with the right people and coming up with the right agreements. You know, we have done some talking with other places, and we are really lucky with the Archdiocese of Boston that they have Thomas Lester, who is an archivist who's fully devoted to this task. So he can work with us and organize all the books and make these decisions. Not every diocese or archdiocese has an archivist that can help get their books organized to the level that they would want to work with us. But we're always excited about hearing about those opportunities.
Thank you. And Deb asks, can volunteers work remotely, so, you know, online, or do they have to come in person to the library?
Absolutely, volunteers can work remotely. For all three of the projects that I'm highlighting today, we can send you files via email and sort of exchange things that way. So we are really flexible and can work with people in a variety of different locations. I believe that not only do we have volunteers from across the United States, but we have a few from Canada and maybe one other country.
Great. Let's see, another question. Christine asks, so if you only have the free guest account to American Ancestors, can you still download and print items that you have access to?
Absolutely. If you have a guest account, if you can access the record, you should be able to download and print that. So that should be easy.
Thank you. And let's see, a few other questions. So Michael asks, can you suggest kind of the best way to approach doing a thorough search on AmericanAncestors.org? And, you know, we didn't really go into too many details about, you know, searching our collections. We talked very specifically about certain databases, but what's kind of best practice, or what do you suggest, Molly? Do you suggest going database by database, or searching in volume, starting broad, getting more narrow? Generally, what suggestions or recommendations do you have?
So today we talked a lot about going in through the browse by database list, and I think this is helpful if you want an overview of what do we have. Do we have something that sort of fits the area and time period that you're researching? But if you think that we definitely do, my favorite way to start a search is in the search menu choosing advanced search. And so advanced search is a must-fit search. And what that means is the search is looking for the items in your search query as a whole. And so it'll really tell you, do we have it, do we not have it? It can be a little bit inflexible. For example, if you're looking for a birth of someone and we only have the baptism record, it's not going to pull up that baptism. And so the searches that we discussed today in database search, those are going to be best fit searches. And so they're going to be a little bit more flexible. And so if it's looking for like each item of your search query as a singular thing. So say we're looking for Molly Rogers in Massachusetts in 1790. So it's looking for all the Mollys, all the Massachusetts, all the 1790s, and it's supposed to sort those things in order of relevance. And so if we have something that fits that, it's going to be really easy. It'll come right up. You know, if you're looking for that birth, it will also have the baptism because it's looking for all the different things that might possibly be that. So if you've gotten confused by my lengthy answer, please look at one of our webinars. We try and go into a lot of detail to help you understand the various options. The short answer is I love starting with advanced search.
Great. And as Molly mentioned at the start of the presentation, we also have a subject guide on using AmericanAncestors.org that does go into kind of best practices for searching our website. It also includes, I believe, information on wildcards and, you know, to start broad and get more narrow, or, you know, so some best practices there. You might want to check that out. And I can certainly include that link to the subject guide in my follow-up email to all of you. Now, Kathy asks, and Kathy, if I'm getting your question wrong or if I'm interpreting it incorrectly, please let me know. But Kathy asks, if I find a published source in your research library that I'm interested in, how do I get the book? So I believe this is maybe, say, a book hasn't yet been digitized, but you find something in our library catalog and you don't see kind of a link to an online version or anything like that. Is there a way to get a copy of some of the information found in that volume?
Absolutely. So as Jennifer mentioned, if you're searching our library catalog, which we didn't talk about too much today, if something is available online, there will be a link to it. So if it's a database, you'll easily be able to sort of hop to search that database. If it's not available online, there should be a button that's more or less on the right in the center of the screen that says Request Photocopies. And so our library department does a lot of work helping to look for those things that you're interested in the books and send you images. So they have some narrow guidelines due to copyright, and you know they're not going to send you the entire book. But if you have a good idea of what you're looking for, use the Request Photocopies button and they can send it to you.
Thanks. Now this is an interesting question, and you know, we can maybe answer this together if we know the answer. But Cindy asks, how does our organization determine what records can be viewed by non-members versus what can be viewed by members only? Is it based on the agreements that we make with the organization? Is it something else? What's your answer?
From the database side of things, it really does depend on the agreements that we have with the various entities that we work with. So I know that the Archdiocese of Boston feels very strongly that we do have a free version of their records. And so, you know, we try and work with each different person to try and figure out, is this something that makes sense to offer to everyone? Is this something that we have put a lot of work on behind the scenes that maybe we would like to have people be an NEHGS member? I'm not as sure how those decisions are made for the digital collections, but I imagine it's similar.
Well, one thing to point out, at least with the digital collections, especially when those items are from our manuscripts collection, I mean, currently our access to our manuscripts, if you came here to visit our library and archives, you would have to be a member to request and to view and to sit down with those materials. So I think, you know, part of that access is carried over into when something is digitized. But that's, again, kind of not a guess, it's an educated guess. I'm not sure what goes into the decision as far as when something is freely available. And sometimes it is based on those partnerships and agreements that we have with other institutions and organizations. But great question. Twyla asks, is paid membership required to be a volunteer?
Paid membership is not required to be a volunteer. So if you're interested in helping, we'd love to have your help. So yeah, you can always get in contact to learn more.
All right. Well, I think that's just about everyone's questions answered. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to write to us directly. You have Molly's email that she gave, webmaster@nehgs.org. If you're looking for more hands-on assistance with your research and your family history project, do consider scheduling a one-on-one consultation with one of our genealogists, or even hiring our research services team. And if you're interested in learning more about those services, you can write to the email addresses that you see on your screen, and I'll also include those in my follow-up email. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for our kind of first session of our new webinar series. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our webinars and online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. If you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online educational programs, such as when the next webinars in this series are happening, or when the next other webinars are happening. We actually have 2 others coming up in October, one next Thursday on going offline, the importance of really going to libraries and archives and repositories and doing research there. And then the following week on October 24th, we'll be talking about how to kind of find family history within library catalogs. So 2 great topics coming up. I encourage you to register for those. Those are all free, and you can register at americanancestors.org/education. I hope to see you at our online programs in the future. Goodbye for now.